Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're taking a pretty remarkable journey back in time. We're opening up an ancient text to explore this really extraordinary historical encounter.
Yeah, it's not your typical, political summit. It's much more about how a major world leader, the Byzantine Emperor, tried to understand a completely new religious movement that was just emerging.
Exactly. We're diving into some specific excerpts detailing a conversation between Emperor Heraclius and Abu Sufyan bin Harb. Now, Abu Sufyan was a key merchant from the Quraysh tribe, and importantly, at this point, he was actually an opponent of Prophet Muhammad.
And this meeting, it takes place in Ilya, which we know is Jerusalem. Abu Sufyan's just there on a trading trip, minding his own business, seemingly.
Right. So let's try and picture this. You've got the Roman emperor. He's surrounded by all his people, his dignitaries, and he's about to question this merchant, who's technically an enemy, about a man claiming to be a prophet back in Arabia.
It's quite a setup.
It really is. Our mission today, really, is to pull out the insights Heraclius gained, and we'll understand what this whole moment means, maybe even for you listening. So picture it. Abu Sufyan's with his caravan, and suddenly he gets summoned to Heraclius's court in Jerusalem.
Which must have been quite intimidating, I imagine.
Absolutely. The emperor calls him forward, asks, okay, who here is most closely related to this man claiming prophethood? Abu Sufyan steps up, says, that's me.
But here's where it gets really interesting, that detail about his companions.
Yes. Heraclius tells Abu Sufyan's own men to stand right behind him. And the instruction is clear. If he lies, you contradict him.
Mm-hmm.
And Abu Sufyan himself, he apparently admits later that the only reason he told the truth was because he was afraid of being called a liar by his own companions.
And what's fascinating there is Heraclius' method. It's so meticulous. He wasn't just, asking questions. He was actively trying to verify the answers using this, very clever social pressure tactic.
It really shows he's taking this seriously. This isn't just casual curiosity. He's a ruler trying hard to figure out if this emerging figure is legitimate.
Precisely. He's engineering a situation to get at the truth, or at least what Abu Sufyan believed to be true, under duress.
So then Heraclius starts this series of questions. It almost feels like he has a checklist, a checklist for prophethood, and each question seems designed for a specific reason.
Okay, yeah.
So first, what about the prophet's family status? Abu Sufyan says he's from a noble family.
Right.
Then, had anyone else from his people claimed to be a prophet before him? Abu Sufyan, no.
Important.
Was any of his ancestors a king? Again, no.
Okay.
Had he ever been accused of lying before he made this claim? Abu Sufyan answers, no, never.
That's a big one, character-wise.
Definitely. Then who follows him? Is it the elites, the nobles, or the poor? Abu Sufyan says it's the poor.
Interesting demographic.
Are his followers increasing or decreasing?
Increasing.
Another key indicator, perhaps. Does anyone who adopts his religion later become unhappy and leave it? Abu Sufyan's answer, no.
So, commitment, steadfastness.
And finally, the question about trustworthiness. Does he ever break his promises? Abu Sufyan says no, but he adds this little qualifier. He says, we're currently in a truce with him, and, we don't know what he'll do in that regard.
Ah, okay. So that was the one point where Abu Sufyan felt he could maybe inject a little doubt or at least uncertainty.
Exactly. He said later it was the only point he felt he could say something even slightly negative without outright lying.
Right. And for every single one of these questions, Heraclius seems to have had a reason, probably based on his own, scriptural knowledge or logic.
Can you walk us through that? What was the thinking behind those specific questions?
Well, the sources suggest his thinking went something like this, the nobility question. He apparently noted that apostles, prophets, they generally come from noble lineage within their tribes.
Okay, makes sense.
The question about previous claimants. If someone else had already made that claim, Heraclius might have thought, okay, maybe this man is just imitating or following a trend. But no, that wasn't the case.
Got it.
No kingly ancestor. That meant he likely wasn't just trying to reclaim some lost family kingdom or political power.
Ruling out a political motive, maybe.
Perhaps. And the lying question, that was crucial. Heraclius reasoned, look, if a person is known for never lying about other people, they're certainly not going to invent a lie about God.
That's powerful logic.
Then the followers being the poor, Historically, that's often how these movements start. Apostles are frequently followed by the less privileged first.
Right, the established powers are often more resistant.
Exactly. And the followers increasing and staying committed, these are seen as signs of, well, true faith, something genuine that deeply resonates with people, where, as the source says, delight enters the hearts and mixes completely.
Wow, that's quite a phrase.
It is. And finally, not breaking promises. Like other apostles, a true prophet is expected to be trustworthy, to uphold their word. That's fundamental.
So Heraclius is basically running this profile against a known template in his mind.
Pretty much. It's a fascinating cross-cultural moment of evaluating prophethood.
Okay, here's where it gets, well, really interesting for me. Heraclius then asks if they'd ever fought wars against each other. Abu Sufyan says yes, and the outcome. Sometimes he wins, sometimes we win.
So a back-and-forth struggle, not constant defeat for Muhammad's followers.
Right, and then the final big question. What does this prophet actually order people to do? What's the core message?
And what did Abu Sufyan say?
He replied, to worship God, Allah, alone, not to associate anything else in worship with him, to abandon the ways of their ancestors, and to pray, speak the truth, be chaste, and maintain good family ties, good relations with kith and kin.
Okay, so a clear set of core tenets. Monotheism, prayer, ethical conduct.
Exactly. And Heraclius' reaction to all this, it was, well, pretty profound.
What did he say?
He declared, based on Abu Sufyan's answers, that if all this was true, then this prophet would very soon conquer and occupy this place underneath my feet. He meant Jerusalem.
Wow. That's a huge statement from the Emperor of Byzantium standing in Jerusalem itself.
Huge. And he added, he said, I knew from our scriptures that a prophet was going to appear. I just didn't think he would be from your people, meaning the Arabs.
So he recognized the signs, but the origin surprised him.
Yes. And he even said, he wished he could meet him. He said if he could reach him, he'd go immediately. And if he were actually with him, he would, quote, certainly wash his feet.
Wash his feet. That's an incredible expression of, well, humility and recognition from an emperor. It signifies deep respect, potentially acknowledging a higher spiritual authority.
It's astonishing, isn't it? Especially considering Abu Sufyan was, at that time, his enemy.
It really speaks to Heraclius's maybe intellectual honesty in that moment. He's hearing evidence that aligns with his own understanding of prophecy, and he's reacting to it quite openly, at least in this reported exchange.
Now, after this really intense questioning and Heraclius's conclusions, something else happens. He has a letter brought out.
Ah, yes, the letter from Prophet Muhammad himself.
Exactly. It had been delivered earlier by a messenger named Dawah to the governor of Gustra, who then forwarded it on to Heraclius.
And the content of that letter is pretty direct, isn't it?
Very direct. It starts, in the name of Allah the Beneficent, the Merciful, from Muhammad the slave of Allah and his apostle to Heraclius the ruler of Byzantine.
Straight to the point. No ambiguity there.
None. It goes on, peace be upon him who follows the right path. Furthermore, I invite you to Islam. It's a direct invitation.
An invitation to submit to God, essentially.
Yeah.
What were the terms or the promises?
It says if you become a Muslim, you will be safe and Allah will double your reward. So safety and a double reward for embracing Islam.
And the alternative.
And if you reject this invitation of Islam, you will be committing a sin by misguiding your Urizin. The Urizin are generally understood to mean the peasants or the subjects, the people under his rule.
So it's not just about his personal salvation, but his responsibility as a ruler for his people's guidance. That's a heavy implication.
It is. And it finishes with this really powerful verse from the Quran, calling for common ground. O people of the scripture, come to a word common to you and us, that we worship none but Allah, and that we associate nothing in worship with him, and that none of us shall take others as lords beside Allah.
That's a call for pure monotheism, appealing to a shared foundation that Heraclius, as a Christian, would presumably understand, at least in principle.
Right. And it ends, then if they turn away, say, bear witness that we are Muslims, those who have surrendered to Allah.
So a clear invitation, a warning, and an appeal to shared monotheistic roots. Quite a document to receive as an emperor.
Absolutely. So you have the interrogation confirming the signs Heraclius recognized, and then this direct written message lands in front of him.
It puts him in an extraordinary position, doesn't it? He's got corroborating testimony, his own scriptural understanding pointing towards this, and now a direct call to action.
So what happened immediately after Heraclius read this letter and gave his speech concluding the prophet's legitimacy?
Well, according to Abu Sufyan, the scene wasn't exactly calm.
No. Abu Sufyan noted that right after Heraclius finished speaking and reading the letter, there was a huge hue and cry, basically a big commotion, in the royal court among the Byzantine dignitaries.
So maybe not everyone was as convinced or perhaps as open as Heraclius seemed to be in that moment.
Seems like it. Abu Sufyan and his companions were quickly ushered out amidst the noise.
And what was Abu Sufyan's takeaway from all this?
As they were leaving, he apparently turned to his companions and said something like, "Look how prominent Ibn Abi Kabsha's affair has become," using a sort of dismissive name for the prophet. Even the king of the Byzantines is afraid of him.
So seeing the emperor's reaction, even the negative reaction from the court, it actually boosted Abu Sufyan's perception of the prophet's growing power and influence.
Exactly. He said it was at that point, after witnessing this whole exchange, that he started to feel certain that the prophet would ultimately be victorious, that he would be the conqueror.
And that eventually led to Abu Sufyan himself embracing Islam later on.
That's right. So that encounter was a major turning point, not just for Heraclius' understanding, but for his adversary, Abu Sufyan, too.
It shows the ripple effects of that meeting. It wasn't just contained within the palace walls.
But the story of Heraclius and his views, well, it doesn't quite end there. There's another fascinating account, this one from Ibn an-Natur, who was the governor of Jerusalem under Heraclius.
Okay, what does this one add?
It mentions that Heraclius was also known as a foreteller, an astrologer. And one time, he apparently woke up looking quite gloomy or sad. When his priests asked why, he explained that he'd seen something in the stars the night before. He'd seen that the leader of those who practiced circumcision had appeared and was destined to be a conqueror.
Circumcision. So who did they think he meant?
Well, his priests immediately jumped to conclusions. They said, "Oh, don't worry about that. It must be the Jews. They practice circumcision. We can kill them off if you want."
A rather extreme reaction, but that wasn't who Heraclius was thinking of.
It seems not, because just then a messenger showed up, sent by the king of Gresan, who was a Byzantine vassal. This messenger brought news about Prophet Muhammad.
Ah, perfect timing. Or perhaps divine timing, depending on your perspective.
Indeed. Heraclius then ordered his people, "Go check if this messenger is circumcised."
And was he?
He was. Then Heraclius asked him about the Arabs in general. Do they practice circumcision? The messenger confirmed, yes, they do.
So the pieces clicked into place for Heraclius.
Exactly. He then reportedly remarked, "The sovereignty of the Arabs has appeared." He connected the astrological sign, the practice of circumcision, and the news about Prophet Muhammad.
It shows him using multiple forms of knowledge, or what he considered knowledge astrology, contemporary reports to confirm his understanding. Did he try to verify this further?
Yes. The account says he even wrote to a friend of his in Rome, someone he considered equally knowledgeable in these matters, asking for his opinion.
And did the friend agree?
He did. The friend wrote back, confirming Heraclius' assessment about the emergence of the prophet, and that it aligned with their understanding. So this leads us to a really dramatic moment. This happens later, in the city of Homs.
Okay.
Heraclius gathers all the heads of Byzantium, all the important leaders, into his palace there. He has all the doors locked.
Locked doors. That sounds serious, setting the stage for a major announcement.
Definitely. And then he makes this direct appeal to them. He says, "O Byzantines, if success is your desire, and if you seek right guidance and want your empire to remain,
yes,
then give a pledge of allegiance to this prophet." Essentially, he was asking them to embrace Islam.
Wow. He actually proposed it directly to his leadership after everything he'd seen and concluded.
He did. It's a bold move. But the reaction, well, it was immediate and pretty negative. The source says they reacted fiercely. They all rushed towards the locked gates, trying to get out, running like onagers, like wild donkeys, showing this intense, visceral hatred towards Islam.
So, complete rejection, panic even.
Utter panic and rejection. Heraclius saw this immediately, saw their strong resistance, and he pivoted very quickly.
How did he backtrack?
He ordered them to be called back. And then he told them, "Look, what I just said. I was only saying it to test the strength of your conviction, your faith."
Oh, the classic, it was just a test maneuver. a way to save face and perhaps his position, maybe even his life, given their reaction.
Exactly. And they bought it, or at least they accepted it. They apparently prostrated themselves before him, pleased with his reassurance, and the narrator concludes, and that was the end of Heraclius' story in connection with his faith.
So his personal conviction, which seemed quite strong based on the Abu Sufyan account and his astrological readings, it ultimately hit a wall when faced with the political reality and the resistance of his own people.
It really highlights that tension, doesn't it? The challenge for a leader when their personal understanding or belief clashes so hard with the traditions and will of the people they lead.
It's profound. He seems to have recognized something he believed to be true, based on his own framework, but couldn't bridge the gap to bring his empire with him.
So what an incredible deep dive that was. We've seen this powerful emperor, Heraclius, carefully, almost scientifically, investigating the claims of a new prophet.
Yeah, using his own scriptural knowledge, logic, even astrology to sort of piece it together. And he seems to have privately acknowledged, yes, this fits the signs, this is likely true.
But then we see that stark reality of politics, of culture, of entrenched belief systems, when he tries even tentatively to share that conviction, or maybe test the waters.
The backlash is immediate and overwhelming. He has to pull back. It shows the limits of even an emperor's power when it comes to changing core beliefs.
So if we try to connect this to the bigger picture, what does this episode really tell us?
Well, I think it offers this incredibly rare glimpse into how the emergence of Islam was perceived at the highest levels, right at the beginning, outside of Arabia. It's not just a local event, it's immediately interacting with major world powers.
And it shows that complex dance between religious prophecy, geopolitics, raw power, and just the deeply held beliefs of ordinary people and elites.
Exactly. It challenges us, perhaps, to think about how knowledge, even when recognized or accepted by leaders, can face these huge barriers to wider acceptance. Truth isn't always enough, it seems.
So for you listening, what does this whole story, this deep dive into Heraclius' encounter reveal? Maybe about leadership when it confronts a truth that's inconvenient or challenging.
And that constant tension, between what someone might personally believe or know and what they feel they can actually do given the pressures of their position, the demands of power.
It leaves us with that question, doesn't it? What would you have done if you were in Heraclius' shoes, knowing what he seemed to know, but facing that kind of fierce resistance from your own people?
A difficult question with no easy answer. Something to definitely mull over.